Yeah, we can. Ian, can you just have a go with turning off the front row of lights to see if we can get some of this brightness off here? Bit of mood lighting, perhaps? Yeah. And the middle ones as well is okay. It's just the front ones that... no. Just... Yeah, and that works pretty well. All right. Evening and welcome to the Gungahlin Community Council August meeting. Apologies, we had a few logistics challenges nailing meetings last month, but we're back underway with a pretty full agenda tonight. We've got an update on the marketplace development. If Kieran Fordham shows up, we'll have an update on the cinema development, and we've also got an update on new development here in the town centre of Gungahlin. If you haven't signed in, please just keep an eye out for the sign-in sheet and sign in as it comes. And without further ado, I might ask Philip Napstep from the Vinter Group to come up and talk to us about update on the marketplace. I'll give you a clicker, Phil.
All right. Thanks, Peter. So my name is Philip Napstep. I'm the development manager working on the expansion of the marketplace. And I thought I'd just give you an update of how we're progressing. So I might just start with, I'll just run through the proposal and the plans again, so everyone probably knows the Kmart's game, but I'll just run through where we're up to in the plans, what our key milestone dates are for the development. I'll give you guys an update of what's happening behind the hoardings. I know you've probably all seen there's a lot of hoardings, a lot of construction activity. And then I'll finish up by just showing you a few artist impressions of how the development's going to look when it's all completed. You probably all know that Kmart is going in. Woolworths are currently under refurbishment, so Woolworths are investing $7 million on refurbishing the store, and that's well underway at the moment. They're due to finish their refurbishment mid next month. We've got about 25 new specialty stores opening in the centre. New basement parking for over 500 cars. That car park, I'll go through in a bit more detail, we're opening next Friday. So you'll be able to go into the new section from next Friday. The new underpass link, so we've got an underpass link which is running underneath Hibberson Street, which will connect the new car parks to the Big W car park. That'll open next Friday as well. And we're actually under construction. We're building a new Hibberson Street bus shelter for the ACT government. That's the reason why that footpath is closed at the moment. That'll open in about 8 weeks. So brand new bus facilities for the people. Just so you know, obviously everyone's probably quite familiar with the Big W Centre and the Woolworths Centre. So it's this area here that's currently under construction. And this section here will open next Friday. The retail won't open, so you'll be walking through the new mall with hoardings, but that'll open next Friday. And the basement car park. So there's 2 levels of basement car parking going under the new extension. And the basement 2 will connect through to the Big W car park, which will run underneath Hibberson Street. So you'll be able to drive in from Gosard Street, down the ramp, and you'll actually be able to go straight into that car park from the Stage 2 car park, which we call Stage 2 car park. So as I said, we started construction last year. The Hibberson Street underpass is complete. The new basement car park opens next Friday. Wilson will start managing our car parks from the 23rd of August. Still be 2 hours free, which we've got now. When we had to introduce the 2 hour free back in May, June last year because of the government office box and the commuter parking that we had in the car park to free up a lot more car parks for customers that actually want to use the centre. But it's still getting fined after 2 hours. You'll be able to pay a nominal charge, very similar to O'Connor and a lot of other centres around the ACT. The Woolworths relaunch. So Woolworths are, as I said, are currently doing a refurb, which you can see when you walk into the store now. They'll be completed mid next month, and they'll be doing a relaunch of that store, so a massive marketing campaign, which will happen at the end of September next year. So a lot of specials, a lot of letterbox drops specifically for the Gungahlin store because it's been hit pretty badly with all the construction activity. And the new retail extension, which is Kmart, and all the new specialty stores will open on the 24th of November. So PC notices have been issued to Kmart. Kmart are all quite impressed with what's going on, and Kmart will actually be on site from the 4th of October this year doing their fit out in the stores. So in terms of, this is a few photos of, so that's a photo looking at the what we call the P2, which is the lower level car park entrance, looking into the lifts and the travelator lobbies. That's a photo looking up under Hibberson Street, so the ramp actually connecting the stage 2 car park or the Big W car park. So we've got a pedestrian access and a car access ramp, so you better walk under them. That's looking at the travelators just coming up into the new mall from the basement car parks. And that's just a photo just looking from the, which will be walking through that next Friday into the, you can see there, that's the Woolworths mall through there. And there you can see the artist impressions are actually very similar to what we're, so that was an artist impression that was done about 12 months ago, that section of the mall. So you can see that it's looking similar except without the people and the shops. That's an artist impression looking from the mall, from Kmart end right up to the Woolworths end. You can see the outside starting to take shape with this. This is an artist impression, but that cladding is now up, the timber is now up, and the external cladding is going on the external. That's it. So you'll see all that construction activity, particularly behind on Ernest Kavanagh Street. That road will be reopened from next Friday, and you'll be able to drive in and use the new car parks for next Friday.
Cool.
That's it. Yeah.
Any questions? I've got one. Yeah.
Just the new bus shelter, is that going in the same location as the current one?
Exactly the same. Yeah. So what we're actually building a new bus shelter that actually runs the whole width. So it'll be about 40 metres long, 40, 50 metres long. Unlike the one across the road, the shelter will be the same height as the existing bus shelter. So you've got a lot more weather protection than you do across the road.
I'm just concerned because the ACT government's planning to move that bus shelter.
They are. They're planning to move it to Gungahlin Place. But we made the decision to still go ahead with the bus shelter because the ACT government can't give us a firm date on when it's actually going to move. It was going to move in October this year. Now it's moving early next year. So we made the decision to still proceed with the bus shelter. And also when it does go, there's still a lot more weather protection for people that want to use on Hibberson Street. Before we did the development, we did a lot of research, and one of the number one things that came out that people didn't like was the not much weather protection on Hibberson Street. You always get wet, cold. So by having the all the new awnings that we're building on the new centre will be 4 metres wide rather than the standard 3 metres wide, and on where the buses are, right at that intersection, the awning will be running at about 5 to 6 metres wide. So a lot of weather protection on Hibberson Street.
You mentioned the drive in to the Big W side and then across.
Yep.
What other external access to the new car park?
Yep. So the
other external accesses
to the new car park, yeah. So the main access where the old car park entry was on Ernest Kavanagh Street, it's in the exact same location, except we've got 2 lanes coming in and 2 lanes going out in that location. And there's also a secondary exit entry left in, left out on Gosard Street. That entry won't open next Friday because of the buses temporarily relocated to Gosard Street. We can't actually open that entry exit until the new bus interchange opens on Hibberson Street.
Any other questions? Yeah, for sure. Just behind you, Kevin.
Just one.
Yep.
Wilson parking,
Yep.
which is 2 hour limit.
Yep.
Did you mention that would be policed or?
policed.
What happens if somebody isn't?
It's a boom gate. So you'll a bit like Westfield, you'll go in, you'll get your ticket.
So you get a now that explains it, because in the Coles one, it's a 2-hour limit, but people obviously park there all day.
Yeah, and we went through a lot of internal debate on whether we go a ticketed system or whether we go a fine system, or like you said, Wilson can come and... The thing with that is that people misuse, they park over 2 hours, and then if you do park over 2 hours, so you've got the hairdresser or whatever, and you go over by 30 minutes and you get caught out, you get stung with a $110 fine, which isn't fair. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things with the ACT government office block, light rail coming in, and the success of the bus, the whole car park would be clogged full of commuters, which... If you're shopping at Woolworths, you won't be able to find a park. So, unfortunately, it's one of those things we have to go down.
How much larger will Woolworths be?
Same size.
Same size?
Yep. It's just a complete refurb to their... the store was quite dated, so they've replaced all the back-of-house services, deli counters. So there's been a lot of money spent on improving the infrastructure for the store, as well as the aesthetic. It's kind of very similar looking to, much better than the Franklin, but I don't know whether anybody's seen the new Franklin store, but it's their brand new latest concept, Woolworths.
It looks much larger.
Yeah, they've pushed, the trading area is probably a little bit larger, like they've eaten into their back of house area, but the store layout before was a bit clunky, if you like.
Yeah, how big is the Woolworths at Franklin?
It's only a 1,500 square metre store where about 4,700.
Yeah, it's just funny that the whole glass frontage that on the main road, it's Flemington Road, that's just
I know.
painted out effectively.
I know.
It's an awful waste of glass frontage.
Yeah, but they probably had to. I don't know. I wasn't involved with it, so I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. Can put a slide?
Yep, that's fine.
Thanks, Phil. Now, we are waiting for our second speaker to show up. I'm not sure if our third speaker is here. You are? Would you like to jump in and go now? Thank you.
Can I just mic you up?
Trevor. Hey.
I do have to wear that, do I? We're in a tag team, so come up. You're right.
Jump up there. All right. The arrow,
Okay.
the arrow thing.
Front and back. Okay.
Yeah, so Trevor is with Purdon Associates? Yeah.
Purdon Planning.
Who are architects working on a project somewhere over there. So they're providing a service to the community. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, madam. Just to fill you in, yeah, I'm Trevor Fitzpatrick from Purdon Planning. We're the planners involved with a new project together with Vikram's here tonight to help me. Vikram's from Stewart Architecture. They're the actual architects. As you see from the slide, the developer is Pod Projects. You may have come across. Pod Projects are doing other developments at the moment in the town centre. So yeah, we're just going to give you a rundown on a proposed new development. It's not an update per se, it's a new development, but it's been around in that the site is adjacent to what most people refer to the Infinity Towers over in the town centre. So the development we're looking at, the development site, excuse me if I go with this thing, is shaded red there. The Infinity Towers are 3 towers on that site there. That's the childcare. I don't have a point, or does this thing point? Presumably.
Point using the magic button.
What was that? No. Oops. Sorry.
Should be the top one. Go back to.
Is it the top one, is it?
Yeah, there's the little red tiny button that's impossible to see.
That one there. Aha, thank you. Do we want to do the slide?
The button here that does that too. Or not, as the case may be. Better?
Ta-da. Sorry about that. I'll try not to destroy the technology again. Yeah, so that's obviously the site next to the, or adjacent to the, that's the Telstra there, the Joint Emergency Services, childcare, New Bunnings, Home Hardware, and so the main part of the town centre, where that previous presentation was all about. So we're just within the town centre, just on the edge. That's the site we're dealing with. And as I mentioned before, the 3 infinity towers go, excuse my hand, I'm left-handed, so I should use my left hand. So this is the general proposal, and Vikram will explain in more detail about the specifics of it. But just going from there, it's these 2 towers here being proposed. That's the childcare, that's the infinity. These are other proposed developments around the town centre. And so the proposal is a mixed-use development, commercial communal spaces with residential above, building heights to provide, as it says there, an appropriate urban outcome. What we're calling an urban outcome is similar to the towers that are there, that have been approved, together with car parking in accordance with the territory standards, highlighting though that there being a CZ2 zone under the territory plan, it doesn't actually have car parking requirements, notwithstanding that it's proposed to provide car parking in accordance with the code is if the code applied. So a summary of the development is 2 towers above 1 podium, a podium covering the whole of the site, and 2 towers rising from there. So sorry, my apologies, I keep pressing the wrong button. The podium includes ground floor commercial uses and 3 car parking spaces above, together with 2 levels of parking below. So in total there'll be 5 levels of parking. There'll be a taller tower that'll have 14 levels of residential. The other tower with stepping up from 4 to 10 floors of residential, making a total height of 14 stories, but it'll step down to 8 stories adjacent to Anthony Rolfe. We have approximately 181 units, of which about a third will be 2-bedroom, half 1-bedroom, and about the remaining 6th, if that maths is correct, will be 3 bedrooms. Sorry, I was just checking the maths as I was talking. So at the moment, it's in design development. So we're at the point where we're sort of consulting, leading up to development of the plans for lodgement of a DA. So that's why these are approximate, because the design evolves as we go through a design development process. But generally, we are talking about 181 units. Those units there, we're looking at the 1-bedroom. Whilst there's a good proportion of 1-bedroom units there, as I've mentioned, they are predominantly large 1-bedroom units that include a study at 55 square metres. To give you an idea, a lot of 1-bedroom units are around the 35-40 square metres. So these are significantly larger than some of the 1-bedroom units that are hitting the market, and they include a study. The 2-bedroom units, done it again, 75 to 80 with a balcony, 3-bedroom 90 plus. And some of the 3-bedrooms, as it shows there, are double-storey penthouses where you have an internal stairway at the top of the development. So, as I mentioned before, 5 levels of car parking, which gives us a total of about 300 car parking spaces for the whole development. That's at the podium, so above the ground floor commercial. And when I talk about the podium, if you can picture the ground floor occupying commercial development, then 3 levels of parking above that, separating the residential towers from the commercial at ground floor, together with 2 levels of basement. There is also some on-street parking where you nose in at the moment. You may have noticed as you go around Gribble Street, there is an existing 15 spaces on street at the moment. So that's the parking provided. the design concept, I can give it to Vikram, as I said, is the project architect from Stewart Architecture. He'll run you through some detailed slides on what the design intention's about, and some details of the floors. Give you that.
Okay.
Better at this than I.
It's just about doing that,
The
right?
little red one's the pointer.
Oh, yep.
That little one there.
Right.
And yeah, just
Yep. Thanks, Trevor. I'm Vikram from Stewart Architecture, and so just to go through the design concept, some of the main ideas that we had was keeping the ground floor an active ground floor, commercial, something that's not really happening in a lot of other developments around. So that was one of the main things that we wanted to look after. Efficient parking. Then apart from that, we are also looking at stepping the building at different heights, and then provide communal garden and outdoor areas for the residents at the level 4 podium, and then at level 8, and again at level 14. So there are 3-4 different. I'll go through in more detail when I go through the plans. Then most of the dwellings, we've tried to get 3 hours of solar access to them. And then there are also some of the units, they also get a dual aspect where you could cross-ventilate some of the units. And a lot of the units, in fact, most of them, they also get views of the Gungahlin Lake, the Yarraby Lake. So that's the ground floor plan. As you look at it, this is the laneway between Infinity Towers and Block 5. So this is the proposed site. And so there is the entire yellow part, it's all ground floor commercial. So there is a lot of potential of using that entire frontage as an active frontage where there could be cafes and restaurants and some retail as well. And we've tried to split the traffic to the development in 2 parts. From the laneway, you could go into to the level 1 podium car park, and then level 1 to 3 podium car park from that. And from here, you'll be able to go into the basement car park, the 2 levels of basement car park. So that's the level 4 plan, where we've got 2 towers, and then there's a break in between. So this is tower 1 and this is tower 2. And at this level, we've got some communal open area. This is level 4. So that's a typical floor plan. So all the blue ones are 2-bedroom units. The pink ones are 3-bedroom corner units, and the yellow ones are the 1-bedroom units. Now this is level 8 plan, where we've dropped a few units from this side. So that's where it steps, where there is an opportunity to create outdoor areas. And it also steps away from the childcare site and also from the town center. And this is level 14 to 17, where the footprint again reduces, just letting sun come through in between the Infinity Tower and from the proposed development into the childcare site as well. And this is again, there would be some areas at level 14 that would allow some outdoor areas. That's the basement car park plan. So we've got 2 levels of basement, and then 3 levels of, this is the podium car park, so 3 levels of this car park. Now these are some analytical diagrams that we've made, and what we've done is we've just tried to reduce the height of the proposed development towards the town center with all the concentration of height happening towards the Infinity Towers. So this one here, the Infinity Tower, this one, that's going to 22 floors, whereas what we are proposing is 18 floors here, and this one here is 8 or 14 levels. So it steps up from, so it just steps down from towards the town center from 14 floors to 8 floors. Again, this diagram shows that we've got some active frontage at ground level, 3 levels of podium car park, and then 2 residential towers, and with some opportunities for outdoor areas there. Now again, architecturally what we are looking at is not to have one straight building, but different, like a variation happening vertically as well. This is just a diagram showing that instead of having a 23-meter high building throughout, what we've done is we've just removed a part of the mast from here, and we're proposing on top of this. And then just a solar access, and most of the units, they get 2 to 3 hours of sun from morning 9 to 3 o'clock. And then possible views of the Yarabi Lake. So this is the massing that we are talking about. So this view is from the childcare site from Anthony Rolfe. And so this one clearly shows that we've got the mass reducing as we go higher up. So that's 8 floors, that bit. Then this is 14. And then up to here, that's 14 again. And then there is a step going to 18 floors. And that's Infinity Tower here. Again, the view from the front. And these are some of the precedents that we've used. I mean, these projects are from our own office. And this is Link in Belconnen, where we've got 2 separate towers, and then there is an outdoor communal area, like a roof garden. This one is dockside at Kingston Foreshore. And we're just looking at something, to activate the street frontage, doing something similar to what we've done at Kingston Foreshore with some outdoor areas. And then this is showing the possible ways of creating a roof garden. And
so how many units are you proposing in the 2 towers?
180 approximately.
As I mentioned before, the design is in development. The sketch plans, we're progressing rapidly to DA, but by DA stage we'll have had discussions with a range of agencies. We're looking for feedback at this point and shaping it up to get it DA ready, but yeah, generally around about the 180 unit mark.
How are you planning the traffic that comes out of the apartments to the road during the peak hours?
You've got the general approach to the traffic has been to split the two. So you've got coming off that laneway. At the moment, there's an existing laneway which at the moment just serves the childcare centre, but that's actually a reciprocal laneway that will serve the Infinity apartments as well. So part of the traffic will come out at that point and then the other part will have direct access onto Gribble Street. So then they'll feed into Gribble Street where those traffic lights are. So the traffic lights are designed to take significant volumes of traffic movements and turning movements at that point. So
there could be a new traffic light.
Well, there's already traffic lights there at Gribble Street, Anthony Rolfe Avenue.
So is it on the...
So it'll come out onto Anthony Rolfe Avenue. Yeah. They'll feed onto Gribble Street, and then as it comes onto Anthony Rolfe Avenue, there's traffic lights already there. So at the bottom, that's a signalised intersection at the moment, which will manage
at the moment,
the traffic.
Childcare, so which is on the... remember which road was the
childcare? Well, the childcare is there.
So So we don't have any traffic lights on that road. Is that right?
At the childcare, no.
Yeah.
No.
So you said you're proposing two different ways of traffic to come out. So one through the
Yeah, one from here, and then the other one from here. Oh, sorry. And then the other one from here.
Yeah. So at the moment there's already without the apartment there's a traffic building up. So I'm just trying to understand how we're going to make it.
Yeah, well, sorry. Well, the intention being, I guess, is that, that these cars here will come out onto Gribble Street down to here and merge in with the peak hour traffic. At that, you're saying Gribble Street's already built up, is it?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a traffic consultant engaged that will be doing a traffic study for the DA. It hasn't yet been prepared yet, but that's what we're proposing. So he'll model that traffic, the traffic movements from this development using peak hour traffic data.
Build the roads before people who want to.
We're hopeful that the traffic study will show the traffic movements and whatever management is needed to manage that traffic. Yeah. So,
There's another big block going up in Gossard Street,
mm-hmm.
and above that there's a couple of businesses. There's a gym and a doctor's surgery and childcare centre. How are they going to be affected?
You might need to point out where they are. There's a whole range. The whole local area is subject to, as I said, the Infinity Towers have been approved. There's other proposed developments here.
When you come down, we're just you're up the boxes.
Yeah, that's the Mezzo apartments under construction there. Is that where you mean? There's development there, and is there a medical facility? Is that the medical facility there? Those who know the local area remember it better than me. They'll all have traffic out onto this lane here. So Gribble Street will basically serve these developments immediately here. So what we're suggesting is that Gribble Street, yes, will serve these developments here and be managed through the lights here and the large roundabout there. So I guess every development that increases densities, and this one certainly does that. We don't shy away from that. It's quite a dense development. It's a town centre. We're looking at lifting the intensity of development in the town centre, so it comes with implications like traffic. All we can say is that where a traffic study will be done as part of this, and we're certainly confident that it will show that the traffic can be managed and keep the traffic within the capacity of the road system. So.
I was at a meeting the other night where there were some very disgruntled people who are in apartments at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And disgruntled for two reasons. One is that a lot of the apartments are being let out on short-term rentals, the Airbnb phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing was that they are up for a large number of repair bills because there was no money left over for fixing up things after some period of time. Are you addressing either of those two issues?
Specifically for this development, I guess not directly. Certainly the ACT government is looking at the whole concept of mixed use and the implications of apartment owners and the implications there. At the moment, there's nothing stopping a buyer buying a unit and renting it out. That the vast majority of apartments are investment properties. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of them become rentals, whether it's short-term rentals through the Airbnb or longer-term rentals. We at this stage can't have any control on that. That's part of the sales and part of the ACT government. But I guess our answer is, if the ACT government wanted to introduce rules to control that from a development point of view, we'd have no problem with that at all. And certainly, as far as the immediate ability of a body corporate to pick up any shortcomings in the construction, again, I'd argue that should be a good thing. I know that body corporates have sinking funds that build up over time, and as the building ages, they can then deal with the matter then. But the short term does seem to be a problem. That to me comes down to the quality of the construction, and we're here on behalf of pod projects, and they are not new developers. They have a number of projects on the go. Feel free to look at their website. I'd like to think they're a quality developer, and that can be.
I suppose part of it would be that part of the purchase price could be part of that sinking.
If that's the solution, to me, that's an ACT-wide solution needed there. I would encourage the local members to put forward some legislation. I know if you look at the ACPLA EPD website, there is a discussion paper out at the moment, as I recall, about mixed-use developments and the implications, and looking at a range of options to address things like noise and incompatible land uses, things like that you're addressing now. It's not lost on government agencies, but whether there's a short-term solution that can apply to one development, I don't have those answers tonight. So.
Trevor, just
Yep.
following on from that, does pod construction build into their buildings a life of type? For example, how long would this construction last? I'm not talking of the Great Pyramids, for example, but how long would you expect these buildings to last before they fall over or need to be replaced?
I'll leave that to our steward architecture, Vikram.
Look, the reason I asked it is that construction and quality of workmanship is an issue across Canberra. I want to know from an architectural point of view, when you construct a building, how long do you expect it to stand there or last before it falls over? Is it 100 years, 50 years?
Well, it's all going to be concrete, precast concrete and concrete slab. So that construction, I would imagine that would last for at least 50 years. Yes, but then the quality of construction is something that's kind of outside what we as designers do. I mean, so that's for the builder and the developer. But I would say, I mean, like what Trevor said, Pod is quality developer, so they definitely would try and do quality work. That includes quality of construction.
Some of these buildings are constructed so that they can be converted into office buildings. Not necessarily they want to do that, but they have a much stronger construction, I understand. And maybe steel frames or something like that. Is this one of those, or is this just always going to be a residential place?
This in the ground floor got some commercial tenancies there, but after that it's all going to be residential on top.
Yeah. Generally, you'll find that the unit titling, the division into separate units and sale of individual units, will prevent any future office use. That you'll have 181 individual owners, and to bring them back into one ownership to allow a major office development to be converted from residential into office would be a massive task. I'm not too sure that could actually happen.
What's the total height of the project?
This is, we've got
The big
total 18 floors, so 18 into 3, that's around 50 square meters. Sorry,
50 metres.
50 metres.
Yeah. So 18 stories is the highest point of the tallest tower. So.
Just wondering what energy efficiency rating you expect the units and apartments to have.
The proponent wants to, there's a lease variation remission option if you achieve 7.5 star Green Star ratings, and his aim is to achieve that, which is a pretty high energy rating. So the ACT government has an incentive for developers to achieve that, and that's the target. So yeah, that's the target becomes it. So our task is to create a design that achieves that, and that's it.
Just a follow-on question from that then as well, with the communal gardens, is there any consideration to having them as food gardens?
Quite possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah. I am making notes as we do here. So as I mentioned before, the process, there's a design development happening before that progresses through to DA lodgement. So there's all sorts of options that can be tweaked as part of that process, and I'm making notes here and things like opportunities for that to be the communal spaces to actually be edible gardens. Yeah, that's. There's somebody. Sorry.
Two questions. Firstly, given the urban intensity is increasing, has any consideration been given to pedestrian access across Gungahlin to the nearest recreation space, given that's also quite a busy road?
Good point. We haven't specifically in this design to date. As I mentioned, the access and traffic is part of the study we'll be doing. So that includes vehicle, pedestrian, cycle movements. So all of those are catered for in that. So if that, you're quite right, we're certainly adjacent to it, and with adding to the residents in the Infinity Towers, the open spaces of this development, people will be filtering towards that parkland area. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, crossing that road is a key issue. And that's.
And the second one is, I'm not sure what the height limitations are in the Gungahlin area. I know Affinity was approved just before that came into place, but what are they? Does anyone know?
This particular precinct here is somewhat unique in the Gungahlin precinct code, in that it was initially intended to be a business park, and it was initially released for that purpose. However, a whole series of events sort of pushed that into the background. The ACT government obviously building their office block at the other end and identifying land at the other end of the town centre for future employment opportunity meant that there was no market for that here. Those office park controls had height limits that applied and had a deadline had a date to it. And so once it wasn't developed for an office park, and the Infinity Towers came along and could therefore make use of the higher opportunities, basically. So there's a number, and I think it's about 23 metres, but it has a criteria that says if this is achieving desired urban outcomes, you can go higher. And so it doesn't actually have a total height. So there's no fixed number per se. But there's a series of words that says you should have buildings consistent with what the desired planning intentions for the Gungahlin Town Centre are.
So we're going to 50 metres?
Well, what we're saying here is part of this, and part of our role to put to ACPLA, and part of feedback from yourselves is what we're saying is that there's been an approval for 3 towers now that are, what are they, 20, 24 and 14. And so that's sort of setting and so we're scaling down from that 18, 14, 8 and saying that's a planning outcome. There's good logic to that. Now others might say there's no logic to that, and we're happy to get that feedback and what have you, but that's what we're here tonight, and that's what we're putting together to the planning authority to say we consider that consistent with that planning outcome that was for that local area. So.
I mean, I'm not happy with Infinity Towers, but I have to accept the fact that it's been approved. Adding additional height to Gungahlin doesn't seem to be the way we want to go, but then again, it's what will fit in that block now. I'm not sure what everyone else thinks.
Light rain was accepted.
What will fix it?
Light rain.
Well, actually, yes, but at least they'll be able to do it properly instead of being stuck in traffic.
So noting the closeness to Infinity Towers and the images you showed before of the outdoor entertainment space, I suppose you could call it, is there going to be some cooperation between Pod Projects and Geocon for the 2 Infinity Towers that Geocon own and the third one that Pod owns, this, to have, I suppose, that complementary and taking advantage of the mass?
Sorry. Yes, I guess is the answer to that, in that there is a relationship between Geocon and Pod Projects. They are independent individual businesses. They compete against each other in the marketplace in a lot of respects, but they also complement each other in that space. So if there was opportunities for complementary facilities or what have you, spaces, if it was a communal gardens, for example, that each other could use, that's certainly an opportunity that they would, as both companies would explore. The laneway between the two, as I mentioned, is not a public road, it's a reciprocal right of way, so it's rights of easements across private land that everybody is allowed to use. So that in itself, the access is effectively a shared access. So there will be those sorts of opportunities. I can't list too many now, but if things emerge, I'm sure those two companies have an excellent working relationship and can sort it out.
I think the scale of the project took a lot of people by surprise, probably in the general population of Gungahlin that might not attend these types of meetings. I think the general sort of feeling amongst the people of Gungahlin was that there is a lot of residential apartment complexes that have gone up in Gungahlin, and that they can grind a little bit, and maybe rightly so, that it is just going to be mostly another apartment complex. But I was quite surprised at the fact that there was little mention of people that had put in things against the DA in regards to certain aspects of it. There was little mention of it. The only thing I think that was really mentioned was you were addressing something in regards to sewage compliance with the government, and that was it. And initially...
That's Infinity you're talking about, yeah? Okay. Uh-huh.
There didn't seem to be many sort of... So it's just a process of addressing some of those concerns that people put forward. It seems like that they're not really looked into as well as they should be in order to placate the people of Gungahlin. That if people do have legitimate concerns and put them forward, they're not just sort of window dressing, that they do sit down and talk to them. Because future projects that are put forward, you don't want the public to feel that they don't have.
But as you said, not many people actually put in an objection to.
I think it was 30 per each sort of project, because they were all put through all at the same time. They all had different DA numbers attached to them, but all at the same time. But apparently there was 30 per application that was put in, and yet the only thing that seemed to come out of that process was in regards to the sewage, and that quite surprised me. And even the comments that came from Geocon after the fact said that there was very limited public sort of objection towards the project, and that sort of surprised me a little bit. What happened to the 90 or so people that put forward objections? Were they just ignored, or were they actually looked into?
I don't know the full details on that. However, our company had a very strong involvement, but I personally didn't. So, but yeah, in a general, from my experience, being involved in numerous contentious projects around the city, that there were three in Infinity. There were three individual blocks of land. So I don't know that anybody would have ever said there were 90 objections. So there were 30 objections to that, 30 objections to that, 30 objections to that. So that's how it would have been dealt with. Now, simply because they were three separate blocks of land, they could have been put forward at three different points in time, but they were put together. Quite often, a number of objections are, we don't like apartments, there's too many apartments, or it's too tall, or some words like that. From a proponent's point of view, all we can ask as ACPLA is to say, well, we agree to disagree. You're the umpire, ACPLA, either approve it or refuse it.
Here's the fixing, for example, when they want to put a shopping centre or something like that.
Yeah.
Those small little things that they talk about seem to be
so
very, very carefully and seem to be, but here, not so much.
We would like to think that I note down a whole range of feedback, we incorporate where we can, and if we can't, we explain why we can't, and that is my role. When this is a DA, you'll see a planning report, and that'll be at the front of what's called those statements against criteria. Those are those really boring charts that everybody falls asleep reading. Our company puts forward a planning report at the front of it, and in that planning report, we will be putting forward, these were issues raised, and we'll explain why we can't, in some cases, why we can't deal with what issues were raised as part of either this consultation or whatever other consultation goes forward. You may not agree with that. You might think we should be trying harder. You then have an opportunity to make a submission to ACPLA, who then have the opportunity to impose conditions on us or refuse the whole development to try harder to achieve that outcome there. So, yes, if ACPLA say it's not worth imposing a condition for it, you may then believe that you're being ignored, but I don't believe that to be the case. I believe, being a part of the design process, that there was an extensive process going that not everybody will be familiar or be party to. And yes, we did try to achieve that, but couldn't achieve it. And whether we can adequately explain why we couldn't achieve it, that's part of our role to get it across. Now, not everybody does that in applications. It just seems a fait accompli to when you lodge a DA with the planning authority in a lot of DAs. And that's all I can sort of put forward at the moment. But yeah, there'll be, people will regularly write in, I don't like this development, there's too many units there, it's too tall. And we're saying, well, we're not going to scale it down. This is what we're putting forward. And we just agree to disagree. And here you are, the regulator being the ACT Planning and Land Authority, they make that decision from that point on. And we might disagree with it, you might disagree with it, and that's their role there.
I'll make the observation that the community needs to be aware that these development applications occur on a very frequent basis. And, when you become aware of it at DA, you think others might be should be aware of, then I encourage you to highlight it. So it's good that all these projects get flagged. The biggest challenge I'll just put to you, Trevor, and that I'd like you to take away and have to think about is that this is one of the issues we have with the Affinity project. It's just very unbalanced compared with all the other infrastructure in the town centre. The intersection just here, this road here is the most congested in Gungahlin. Sure, from here on down, it's in the process of being duplicated, but this is Gungahlin Drive. But this is congested at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. So, it's a horrific piece of road, and we've got this incredibly large concentration. And if you took all these residences, well, they're not even there, right? Okay, it's dreadfully congested now, and the idea that we're going to put in several hundred, a small suburbs with an additional demand right in the middle of where it's already dreadfully congested, and is actually the main conduit to a whole bunch of other services, causes a lot of people to go, well, hang on, this makes no sense.
But the response in the DA wasn't very adequate at all.
So we can't deal with the past now. What we do is perhaps learn from that and make sure that that concern is strongly reflected in the community's interest. So how is it going to work? Because as we all know, going that way or that way at any time of the day or night is a nightmare right now. And this will get better, but there's no plans to do this development here. I'm not sure if there's any plan to put an underpass under the extension of Gungahlin Drive back up to Horse Park Drive, but that certainly should be part of it.
People are pretty sensitive towards that because of other factors that aren't necessarily the fault of that development, but of course that's just going to lead into that, and people are going to sort of immediately not like your project before you even put a brick down, and that's not really what you want. You want to be able to say to the community and have everybody on board, and you're right, not everybody's going to agree, but at least they can have a good input and feel that that's
and it's not this project that's the problem, it's a legacy of what the hell happened with the Infinity project. We've got this one, and then there of course have been a bunch of I was going to say copycat, that's probably unfair. There've been a number of other residential, mixed commercial, residential, very residential heavy projects in the same area. And so we've ended up with an unexpected concentration there when that really wasn't part of the original plan.
Yeah, I guess part of that, and I'm certainly no traffic engineer, but as I mentioned, there'll be a traffic study done as part of this development, which will need to build on whatever traffic figures are generated by other developments. But part of being in a town centre and being an apartment development is that the traffic generation by each apartment will be far less than a suburban household that might be coming from the suburbs and using that part of that road there. And obviously the flippant answer is that they won't drive, that they'll just all catch the tram. But clearly there'll be a number of people who will drive and drive to other parts of Canberra to work or do whatever. But basically that proportion from a town centre apartments, the clear evidence of traffic studies are that a suburban household out in the suburbs will generate 6 to 8 vehicle trips a day, either by people visiting them or them coming and going, whereas an apartment in a town centre is nowhere near that sort of traffic generation. So it's much better to have from a traffic congestion point of view on arterial roads, it's much better to have 180 units in a town centre than 180 new dwellings out in Bonner or wherever else from adding to. So, yeah.
All right.
So,
any other further questions for Trevor and Richard?
Perhaps just a final question about what proportion, if any, of those units will be affordable housing, or what's being done in that space. I'm I get really concerned when I see all of these large apartment blocks and think about the numerous people who are locked out of the housing market and who just can't get in.
I don't know that the price point has been set at this point in the design, but there, I highlighted there is a good proportion of one-bedroom study apartments, which tend to be certainly in the Gungahlin town centre with the other market competition, are at what some people determine the affordable points. To my children, it's certainly not affordable, but but this is not a development that the government mandates that a proportion must be affordable, but by the sheer fact of the market it's looking to hit, and with that number of one bedroom, they're not all going to be $1 million penthouses and that sort of thing, but at the moment I can't tell you what the sort of dollars will be. What I can do is, I'm quite happy, I'll leave there's a PDF version of that PowerPoint if that's the easiest. Put a link or whatever to your website or do whatever. We won't be lodging the DA for probably another best part of a month into September. There's still, as I said, those traffic studies, there's a range of infrastructure issues, TAMS waste management issues to resolve. So there's a whole bunch of detailed design issues to resolve. So it'll be more than a month before a DA is lodged. Then you'll be able to see as part of that, but happy for these plans to go there. I can put a Purdon email address to it if you like and just provide general feedback. As I said, over that next month, there'll be significant professional input in a whole range of disciplines adding to that design development, and that's where we can incorporate any of the comments that I've heard tonight and take back and see what we can do from there.
Great. Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which one have you
One sticking at the top.
Kieran, have you got a slide deck, or are you just doing it arms and hands and stuff?
Can I mic you, please, Kieran?
Oh, I don't know, Mike. I'll be right. I'll talk loud enough, I promise.
Sure?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Tell me if I'm not.
While I'm just doing this, Kieran is with
Lockbridge?
Lockbridge, consultants,
Development
managers
Yep.
For the cinema project. Spoke to us
April?
April.
We just checked, because I have to remember. Yeah.
Great. And will give us a bit of an update on where things are at.
Yeah.
With all that.
Yeah.
Right. You got a clicker?
No?
This one? Do you now?
Right, thank you, Peter. Peter's been hassling me for the last few months to come and give a presentation, so he's done very well. We are now in a position to present, and we want to give you an update, I guess, on where the development's at. We did an initial presentation in April, I understand, and this presentation will be an update from that presentation and will inform our DA proposal to be launched shortly, which we'll talk about soon. At the last of the April presentation, we wanted to make sure that we gave a full picture of what we were developing. Today is about refinement of that development, and as I said, it would be great to gain support from the community group of what we're proposing to submit in the next short period. So, at the last proposal, this is the same slides I presented last time, and we're not varying from what we proposed. We're not proposing any residential on the site. We're not proposing anything that pushes extreme heights on the site. So that, just want to clear that up straight away, and I did that in the last presentation as well. So everyone ease. Okay, so as I said, at the last presentation we presented that we do a similar complex late screen. So Hoyts is working on those 8 screens at the moment and what's part of those 8 screens cinema offering. A restaurant precinct, a retail mall, fresh food offering and some commercial tenancies. And in terms of the built form, once again addressing Hibberson Street and to the lesser extent Hinder Street. A loading dock and basement car park off Efficapedes at the rear of us, and some on-grade car parking as well, which we'll talk about tonight. Happy to take questions through it, and if I'm not loud enough, my apologies, but I'll put a speaker on if need to. So we came and presented some precinct imagery which we've been working on. We do want to present a factory feel in Gungahlin. We think it's a point of difference. It's something which we presented last time. It's the character which we're still pushing ahead with for the development. Oh, that's not working too well, is it? No. Reduce the size. I've got half a slide there, so my apologies. Is there any way of reducing the size?
Probably.
Squeeze. Apologies for that.
Find you.
Yeah.
That corner of Hibberson and
In the street, yeah.
is horrendous. There's no pedestrian crossings.
Yep.
And anyone who gets off the bus, Hibberson and take Trace, risks their life going across that and near the post office.
Fully support you on that. Yep.
So it's going to need a few pedestrian crossings around there.
Yep, well we could talk about the integrated traffic network and what the government's doing there as well.
Because the light rail's going to go in now, I would imagine. So
It is, so we'll talk about
yeah,
that.
So, yeah.
Hold your horses a bit and we'll jump into it. So just in terms of the site, everyone knows our site. It's next to the Coles, the ISPT owned development. We are proposing to initially develop about 55 to 60% of the site in the first DA, and we'll talk to you about what actually goes in that component of the DA, and then provide temporary on-grade car parking to the remaining part of the site to service the development. As we presented last time, we're still maintaining one floor of basement. There's about 305 cars in that basement, with supplementary car parking on adjacent street networks, and also a temporary on-grade car park to the east of the site.
Question. How many people would the cinemas hold?
In one sitting? So there's
one time?
So it's an 800-seat cinema, but they probably run sort of more 60%.
300 car park.
Yeah, but they don't run at 100% occupancy rate. Yeah, so with our development, we'll talk about the car park a bit more, but the development is a mixed-use development, but it's also an entertainment development. So we have nighttime entertainment, which would be the restaurants and cinema operations, and then some retail activity in the day. So we've got split usage across the site. Yep. Downstairs, as we presented last time, a retail offering with also some fresh food. As some of you may know, there's quite a steep incline up Hibberson Street, so there's actually a step in our development. So basically we lose a level as you go up across our site. This is level 1. Sorry, let me go back now. So this is the cinema box, the white cinema box here, and this has slow food dining out the front of it, so restaurant precinct, which will then be accessed from either below in the basement or a temporary on-grade car parking to the east.
Is there sort of boxed in windows, or is it kind of open in any ways?
So,
outside?
I'll show some elevations, but in terms of, it is a glazed frontage and there isn't openings. Because we're providing an entertainment precinct which does go into the evening, we've got to be mindful of these residents that are across the way over here.
Seem to work fairly well. Some of them, if you look across there, they've got kind of like accordion glass that comes back and they can open it right out.
So we originally presented in April that we were going to do a bifold system, but there was some concern raised in noise coming out of that. So we've been looking at now as a glazed system. You'll see it's still an attractive system, but then it also assists us with our mechanical ventilation that we need to achieve in our centre too. And then above, as you'll see in the perspective soon, we presented last time, the cinema box is about 16 metres, so we can fit 2 floors at the same height as the cinema box, and we're proposing to have some small entertainment facilities at the top, and that means more your kids' play type arrangements as opposed to nightclubs.
There's not a lot in Gungahlin that sort of caters to that.
No, so we are trying to have a true entertainment precinct, which includes cinemas, restaurants, games, those sorts of things, and that's the direction that we've gone down. That's the one we presented at the last meeting as well. So we had it strayed from that. I've got some, just the roof. I don't think we need to go too far through the roof, but I guess what would be interesting to you is at the moment the current plans are is to shut this whole frontage, the light rail, and divert traffic around the site. I'm under the current DA for the rail. So that may assist some component. I understand that there's going to be lights put in this intersection here because there still will be traffic going north-south on industry.
But the end part, right at the end there, is going to be blocked to traffic. They won't be able to continue to...
It's actually blocked to traffic from here.
Oh, is it?
Yep, so all the traffic is diverted back this way.
But then they can go up and down there, but they can't traverse left and right. Is that
Yeah.
what the correct?
Did you want to phrase something? Peter's a planner with our development, so he may correct me on things.
In the development application of the light rail, that section of the street is to be changed to be rail and pedestrian access only. So on Everton Street side there'll be no cars going around that, neither private vehicles, no taxis, those type of things.
And it does mean the removal of the current bus stops there as well.
Yeah, as well as the bus, yeah. So it's literally just the tram and pedestrians and bicycles that will be using that space.
Yeah, because they can move the bus station further down into Gungahlin Place.
Yeah. So I mean, as the Vintage Group as well, we're very keen to pull people from the centre and bring them back up into, I guess, our centre as well. I'll just zoom down a bit. So the actual architecture hasn't changed too much from what previously presented, which was the factory look. The roof pitches are still the same. We are working through our material palette at the moment, which we originally had red bricks along Hiverson Street, which we're looking at changing to a precast concrete finish, but we are looking at maintaining a brick facade along Hinder Street. So it's just some architectural detailing we're working through. This is the entry if you're coming in from the car parking on grade here, and there's a secondary entry through here, which is activating the Hiverson Industry corner, which I'll see in the slide in a moment. This is the Hiverson Hinder Street corner, which I'll just go down a little bit. So this is actually the main entrance into the ground level development, coming in from Hiverson Street from Coles direction. As you can see, the development steps at this point where there's a natural change in grade and level. You can't quite see the hoists, but that's the cinema box out the back, and this is our restaurant precinct. Once again, it's a bit more of an angle, so you can see that this won't actually be the view because there's actually Coles just here, but it's important that you sort of understand what we're doing back up the road because there will be a future development on the East Lake side as well, and we've been trying to work in with them about what they're trying to propose as well.
That's the East Lake Club, isn't it?
East Lake Club, yep. So material palette, as I said, we probably changed. We presented red bricks last time, but we seem to be moving towards a more of a blue type brick, precast concrete finishes, and then a long line type product for the roofing and more materials. And that's basically all we've got to present tonight. In terms of our program, we presented last time that we'd submitted DA in mid-2016. We're probably about 5 weeks away from that, so we've probably slipped about a month in our program. In saying that, we've further refined what we're actually offering in the development. We're keen to get the DA in. So we've got some meetings with LDA over the next couple of weeks for their endorsement. We have a holding lease, so we have to have endorsement by LDA, and then we'll be pushing ahead with our DA. And I'm open to any questions.
When does it open?
When's it open? So we presented last time that we'd start construction in first quarter, the end of first quarter next year. That's still our anticipation. It's probably about 18 months build for us.
deep into 2018 is the answer.
Yeah, I mean, realistically with retail, you could either hit Easter trading or Christmas trading for an opening, and I think we've missed the Easter trading.
There are two plumbers that Nest can have to panic. What are you going to do about those?
I'm not aware of those two plumbers, but they must...
Sweet me.
Are they? We're lucky they don't have car parking on them at the moment.
Take them away.
Yeah. If they're still in the on-grade car parking bit, we're putting some trees and vegetation back in there, so they might still get you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to go on. Sort of say about the sort of industrial sort of look about it.
Yep.
It's modern, but it'd be nice to see it for trees.
Yeah, so what we're not showing at the moment is because the light rail is developing the whole Hibberson Street, there is an allocation of trees down there, but between us and the light rail, we need to work out that interface and integration between the two. So there is still meant to be street trees down Hibberson Street. We are proposing for a temporary on-grade car parking to have trees in the island bays. So we are still maintaining vegetation.
It's just a shame it's because that frontal wasn't sort of more open because of the fact that there will be a lot of pedestrian access there. That it's not sort of, it doesn't seem very accessible. It seems very boxed off type scenario.
So we originally presented last time, which had a central pedestrian thoroughfare, if people remember, into the development. What you need to understand is at that point in time we weren't aware that Hibberson Street would be completely closed. Now that is completely closed and there's no development across the road from us or to the east of us or to the south of us, the actual pedestrian traffic is all coming from the central area here. So the main entrance is the Hibberson in the street corner. So we've been dictated by some things which have happened outside our control.
That's a shame.
Just given Hibberson Street looks 50 shades of grey, is there any chance of getting more colour into your palette?
You don't get too excited though.
I think you need to, I mean these are low quality renders, but I think you need to, once we get our red awnings in, to get our precast finishes, get our awnings at the top in, I think when you see our DA, we're getting some proper renders done which actually have the materials in it. I think that it will pop out a bit more for you, get a bit more excited.
Looks a bit like a school.
So, yeah,
Hopefully it won't feel like a school.
Yeah.
how has there been any early thinking about what you would do with the remaining 35-40% you're not developing?
Well, at the moment we're using it for car parking, generate activity in the facility.
Okay, but
When we looked at the development originally, and as I said before, the Hibberson Street was open, which provided a better activation along the whole of Hibberson Street. With the closure of the, let me go back. Sorry. So with the closure of this street here, and also the removal of the bus stops here, the pedestrian traffic is coming out of this part of the centre, which then means from where the light rail stop is about 170 metres to our corner, where the light rail stop is to this corner, it's about 400 metres walk. It's quite a long walk, so that's why we're not activating that component at the moment. This will rely on future activation of the other sites.
So if you had a bus station across the road, for example, then that would open more possibilities for it.
Well, if it maintained in its current status, yes, it would. But the buses won't stop until they come back down this road here, and then they'll stop in the interchange themselves around this area.
I tried to talk to the government and see whether they could reallocate the bus stop across the road exactly where you were saying.
Yeah.
I wish it was.
So our last presentation, we had the bus stop and we had a grand entry in the centre of the site. That's the change that's been made between this proposal and the last proposal.
They don't seem too keen on that for whatever reason.
Yeah. But we're very keen to get on with it. As I said, we've got the voice locked away. We need to build it on it.
When you say fresh food offerings, are they literally fruit shops, or is it more complicated than that?
No, we're looking at some fresh food offerings like fruit shops and like.
Coffee shops and things? That's what
Yeah, there were coffee shops and some commercial premises as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Any other questions? Right, well, thank you for Kieran. Can I keep those slides?
I'll send you the rendered version so people will understand.
And you definitely will this time?
I will definitely will this time. I think it's fair that the LDA sign off the development before I let it go on to other websites.
Sure.
Yeah, you can send us something, just so that we can talk to say that Kieran came, this is what's happening, and you know, for those who didn't come, we can put something on the website.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be a complete slide deck. Just a couple of pictures. And
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. So that ends our formal presentations this evening. Happy to take any questions on notice or any action items. If there's anything people need to raise, I do want to say a little bit about what we're going to try and do next month before we finish. Yep.
In regards to what I just mentioned then, is that I have spoken to the gentleman, spoken to Canadian, and I have spoken to Bar in this department, all of them in regards to reconsidering where they want to put that new bus station down the centre of Gungahlin Place. Just kind of felt that the two centres, the one on the left and the one on the right, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic go between the two centres, and to me it didn't seem like it was a well thought out idea to have the buses running down that centre street, because they're going to have to put lights and a whole bunch of other things in order to mediate that, and the extra traffic it's going to put in the centre of Gungahlin in that area. I spoke to the shopkeepers that all have residences all the way along there. I spoke to every single one of them, and very few of them are actually aware of what's actually going to happen right in front of where they are. The footpath and so forth having to be ripped up, and probably the effect it'll have on their trade. And at this stage, I actually spoke to the guy who's actually developing this proposal for the bus station, and I talked to him and asked why. Initially, years ago, when Gungahlin was first looking at where to locate the bus stations, there was its own proposal of different alternatives. Like there was an alternative for buses to be here, buses to be there, and turn around and all those types of things that were engaged. But in this particular proposal, there doesn't appear to be any alternative. And this is exactly what they want to do, and they don't seem to want to budge. I asked them why it couldn't be put across the road from there, seeing as though it was just basically a vacant lot, and I've got no response from them. One of the things I'm curious about in this regard is whether or not they're still going to go ahead with it, and whether or not they've spoken to the shopkeepers that live along there about the effects it's going to have on their businesses, and whether or not any alternatives were looked at.
The short answer, I can't answer any of your thoughts. I think one of the points you did touch on though is that awareness is one of the challenging parts of all this, is being aware of what is proposed and what opportunities there are to provide feedback and when. If you come across these sort of things, I'd encourage you to share them and make them available to us.
Clothing shop is like Jason.
But I will observe, any time that there's going to be construction will disrupt the shopkeeper, and most shopkeepers will not want any disruptions. No. But most shopkeepers are also very keen for high throughput areas, and bus and train stations are examples of those. So, once it's done, then they're actually popular places to have a commercial outlet, because obviously a lot of people moving through them.
All that parking gets removed though too, along there next to the Chinese shop and all the way along there. That'll now be sort of bus stations and buses coming through there, and of course you can see how that might affect takeaway places in there. So it'd be interesting to know whether Gungahlin is really happy with that whole selection.
Well, I think Gungahlin, the number of people who actually across all the potential plans is probably a very small number. And seeing how all of these things come together, because they're all related, the light rail's related to the buses, related to other planning and the conversations we've had around residential development. So trying to get a full and complete picture is very challenging.
It's funny how they weren't allowed to have the bifold doors in there because of the noise that it creates, but yet they're going to have the buses running right down the centre of Gungahlin Place there, and yet they're not, don't seem particularly concerned about the noise that would create. So,
well, if you've got the contact details for the person involved, then by all means, we need to get them out, get some visibility to it.
Megan as well, so she's aware of it. I just wanted to know that they'd actually looked at alternatives, but for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing that's come out last week is the NBN update for the Casey Stage 1. What can you share about that?
For those who didn't see the Facebook post, as a result of the pretty regular emails or contacts we get from residents in Casey, specifically Casey Stage 1, asking what's happening with the NBN, I did finally, not finally, but got a more complete update from NBN, and they indicated that that last part of Casey will be getting NBN very soon, but it's going to be fibre to the node. So what's going to happen is that last little piece of Casey will be built out at the same time that Hall gets the NBN as part of, and that'll be fibre to the node. Now, the frustration here is, of course, that that will be literally the only portion of Gungahlin that's not fibre to the home. Absolutely everything else in Gungahlin is either been overbuilt with fibre to the node, fibre to the home, or has had fibre to the home built as part of Transact and then sold to NBN. And so there'd be one small community of 600 homes that won't have fibre to the home. Now, it'll be quite new copper, and the quality of the service is probably likely to be pretty high for fibre to the node, but it's not quite the same. The amount of flexibility there is to change this is probably not great, but it's a political decision that it is fibre to the node. So, like all good political decisions, it may be possible to overturn it. So, if there are residents in Casey who want to try and do something about that, I'm more than happy to convene a meeting and a gathering and make a case. But you know, I'm kind of going to be driven by and led by residents in that part of the town.
Reason why?
Sorry.
Just a question with that, or probably more a comment, is, okay, you would have to look at it and say, how can this happen? But the fact is it has. But my question is more, how are we going to stop this happening again? That this happened with one development, like...
I mean, so we're talking about the development or the NBN?
Well, the development has certainly happened after the time NBN has been available and been available.
Yeah. So the reason why Casey is not getting fibre to the home is very clear. It was a change of government, and they changed the policy.
Yeah, but really what should have been happening is that when that development took place, the ACT government should have been insisting that the developer provided the cabling that was suitable.
I know what you mean. Greenfield.
Okay, so
What's the development premises? None of them were ever supposed to be rolled out.
I mean, to be honest, the history is largely irrelevant. The only real challenge is what may be possible to do going forward. So, if people do have concerns about what's going on in Casey, by all means, get back to me.
Was it built in 2008, 2009? Was that kind of when it was established?
Off the top of my head, I can't recall.
And
But,
Ford,
you know,
for example, when was it?
but Ford was done by a different developer who built fibre to the home off the bat.
Weren't they forced to do that because the government legislation at the time was if you had a greenfield site, it had to be fibre?
No. It certainly predates the NBN legislation and initiatives by a long time. So yeah, that's one of the newer pieces of activity. So happy to take that on. Are there any other questions or topics people would like to raise? Yeah, James.
That's just general business. Thanks for the opportunity. I've got a couple of candidates here tonight.
I do.
Mika and also David. Today we held part of an announcement where we redeveloped part of the Canberra Hospital. I know it's not in the region. So I thought I might give it a quick plug now. I have got some information here on that. I'm still reading through a lot of the material yet, though it's an exciting opportunity. We'll be investing $395 million into the redevelopment of a section of the Canberra Hospital, with $8 million towards new staffing, and we'll be looking at other issues relating parking and whatnot in due course as well for immediately down the future. So I've got some brochures here, but otherwise, if you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to give it a go.
I'm confused. Are you from the Liberal Party? Are you from the Labor
Yeah, James is a candidate for the Liberal Party in the upcoming election. And Veronica is a candidate for the Greens in the upcoming election. And David has indicated that he intends to nominate, I think is the right description, as an independent in the city area.
Well, the thing that's missing from your transport proposal is what you're going to do from about the fact that we had action bus service here was in regards to whether or not the Liberal Party was going to commit to have a